one of my classmates, his mother died while we were in grade school, and they had the funeral at the wake in their house, you know, and we went up there to, you know, see her laying there and everything, and that, which was a little different, you know.
How was that?
But at that time, years ago, they did do that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But at the time that happened, most of them had gone to funeral homes.
Okay. So it was a little like old-fashioned for them to still do it in the home.
Right, that was pretty old-fashioned. Yeah, because when my grandpa died, he was at the funeral home and in town and that, you know.
So people stopped doing those like 3-day wakes. They just had a service in the funeral home.
Well, yeah, they were having 3-day wakes even at the funeral home.
Oh, really? They just stayed at the funeral home for 3 days?
Well, they didn't stay the whole time, but they would have it to where it would be like 3 days. And that, you know, before they finally bury him. And that, which is way too long. My mother said she wanted to be like that. We told her no.
Oh, she wanted to wait 3 days?
She wanted to, when she died, she wanted to have the wake for 3 days. And we told her, no way, they don't do that anymore. One night is enough. It's hard enough on the family.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why she wanted that.
Because that's the way it used to be.
Okay.
You know, that was still the old way.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think they did that with my dad. We had it for 3 days, you know.
So what would you do for those 3 days?
We'd all be at somebody's house, you know, the main house. With my dad, we'd have been up at my mom's house. All of us, people would be bringing us all this food, you know, and everything. And we'd just sit around and we'd go look through old pictures and talk about, you know, when he was alive and what we all did.
Mm-hmm.
Just that was all it was.
I know he said that when another person we interviewed there, when his like grandmother died, I think when the grandfather died, the grandmother stayed up for 3 days straight. Did that happen when you were?
No, my grandma didn't. Because I stayed with her.
You guys just went to bed.
Yeah, because she didn't want to be alone, you know, but so I stayed with her for a few weeks.
Oh, so you were the one to stay with her?
Uh-huh.
Well, you were close to her.
I was real close to her. I wasn't the oldest, you know. There were some that were older, but I was real close to her and that, and I stayed with her. And the school was right across the street from her, you know, so I could go to school and go back and be with her.
Do you remember another family or another couple was telling us about the bell chiming when someone died? Do you remember anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
What was the situation with that?
When somebody died in a parish, the church bells would ring for so long, because I'll never forget it. Because when my grandpa died, which I didn't know he had died, the church bells rang, and that, you know, and we were at school and we sort of said a little prayer, you know, for whoever it was that had died, and then the kids, some of the town kids went home for lunch, and then they came back, and then they said it was my grandfather. And my mom and dad didn't want to pull me out of school. They just wanted me to stay in school because they knew I couldn't do anything, you know. So they weren't going to tell me until I got out of school, and then I found out that way.
Oh.
And I was so close to him, I mean, I just bawled. But that's what the church bells, so every time I hear the church bells like that, I think of when my grandpa died.
Do they still ring church bells?
I don't think they ring them like they did.
Mm-hmm.
They'd have to ring it quite often then.
Yeah.
Around here.
Another couple, the couple we were talking to before, said it would ring like a couple times, whether it was male or female, and then a certain number of times for the age. Did they do that in Catherine?
I didn't know that's what they did. I just knew that they rang the church bells like when somebody died.
Okay.
But I've never heard that part of it.
Maybe it's just in their town that they did that.
I was going to say, I never heard of that part before. I mean, because God, if they were going to ring it according to their age. Somebody who's 65 years old, it's going to be a long ringing.
Mm-hmm.